translation into Ukrainian, so I'm using more Ukrainian. Even us speaking in the backstage, so we used Ukrainian more than Russian. I'm sorry,
and I was born
English.
in Britain of Ukrainian origin, incidentally. So what I wanted to ask you about is this pull towards Europe. Ukrainians, they feel themselves as if they're not a long-lost child of Europe, but an abducted child that history, communism, Russia abducted. They want to go back and join Europe, as do many Belarusians. It's Belarus Solidarity Day today, for example. How strong is that sense of being part of Europe in Ukraine? Has it been heightened by the war, or are people still a bit wary about the geopolitical situation between East and West in which Ukraine has traditionally found itself?
You know what's interesting? Ukraine as a nation is very modern. I think that digitalization has kicked in the past year and a half more than ever in Ukraine. And then on the other side, you look on the opposite side, Russia. What Russia does, turning off internet because you can get the truth. VPN is getting like really complicated to use in Russia. YouTube and so on, other channels of social media are getting turned off. So basically Russia is going backwards. Instead of developing its people and its country, it's going backwards. So we Ukrainians are on the border of the East and the West, and also on the border of the free world. What we stand for, we do stand for freedom. We do stand for digitalization. We do stand to learn from the past, learn from the mistakes of the past, and not to repeat them again, and develop our country and be part of this development and evolution. So we don't want to stop evolution of humankind like Russia does in this case, unfortunately. But also I want to say it's not about the nations, it's about personalities. What do you stand for, what do you believe in, and just be active part of this world. That's
Vladimir, we'll come to that in a minute because you're very active on the digital front. You spent a large part of the last 20 years or so as an international figure, sportsman, boxer, world champion outside of Ukraine. But you've just told me behind the stage that since the war you've been mainly in Ukraine. What effect has this war had on you? You told me that when you look in the mirror, you ask yourself, what am I doing for my people? Can you elaborate a bit more? I mean, what does war mean to a champion boxer that can live out here and be far away from it and with words support the struggle? You've gone back. Your brother's the mayor of Kyiv, as we know, defending the capital. What are you doing personally?
Well, you can say it in the words of wearing different hats, and it's important to have the view from the outside of Ukraine and also inside of Ukraine on the front line. Speaking of the front line, either its front line was a year and a half ago on the border of the city of Kyiv, the capital. Russian military were trying to capture the capital of Ukraine, so we were preparing for street fights. Now the front line is in the south and the east of the country, and there's another front line, informational front line, which is one probably of the most important front lines. Information makes people's minds change, think differently. There is some information could be fake, how we can prevent that with AI as an example or not. So there are a lot of questions in this world how to handle that. So we definitely in Ukraine have faced so many challenges, and most importantly, speaking of 4 principles that helping us and hopefully help the world: to focus, agility, coordination, and endurance. So our focus, we know who we are. Our agility, we know how important our allies and how supportive our allies are. Coordination between all of this challenge that we're facing in Ukraine, as I said, on the eco side and personal challenges due to the war and destruction. And most importantly is the principle of endurance. Because maybe some of you are tired of war. You're tired of war in Palestine and Israel, you're tired of war in Ukraine and what Russia does in Ukraine and other wars that are happening in this world. Endurance, to keep on going, to defend what you stand for, is probably one of the most important values and principles that humankind can have. Not to get tired, not to get exhausted, but keep on going. And as we said before and mentioned, so we're in round 8. So there are 4 more rounds to go. Just keep on punching and don't stop. That's what I heard in the corner of the ring. So
how important was it for you when you were boxing to feel that support from the crowd around? Were there moments when you felt that the support was switching to the other side, that you were on your own? Is there any comparison with the kind of Ukraine fatigue that sometimes we come across these days? The war's been going on, as you say, for almost 2 years.
It's highly complicated, and war has lots of layers. You know, sometimes we think about the upcoming winter, for example. Past winter, Russia was thinking we're going to freeze, and not just Ukrainians going to freeze, but also we're going to freeze in Europe. With lack of energy sources, gas, coal, and oil. So now we have another winter coming up, and then the devil is in detail. So you need to really understand in small parts of it. If we talk about generators, we cannot talk about huge generators. We need to have lots of small generators because it's more complicated to destroy them, and they don't use much of gas and providing the energy. So just an example. As I said, devil is in details. You need to be precise what you're doing, and we've heard probably the saying, don't micromanage, but sometimes you have to, because that's gonna make it or break it. So we do that in Ukraine. And I love this theory of Darwin. Not the strongest is gonna survive, and not the smartest, but someone who is gonna adapt to the environment. We're all adapting to the environment, digital environment, or environment of the war. So you need to adapt, you need to change yourself. You cannot be stiff, you need to be agile.
Okay, and during wartime, we know unfortunately corruption flourishes. The term carpetbaggers, an American term, was invented in the 19th century. The term the halls of war. You talk about micromanagement. How can there be a kind of more effective micromanagement in terms of visibility, openness, accountability, responsibility? I think a lot of our allies and friends want to be assured that that is also being taken care of.
Speaking of corruption, you heard the news about, I think, Portuguese Prime Minister, late news. So it's like, accuses, but it was not true, it was not right, so was it or was not. Bureaucracy and corruption. And we're the Web Summit. So we are part of this digital world. And I believe the best and the fastest fight that you can win against corruption and bureaucracy during the war or during the peaceful times is digitalization. Just digitalize the experience. Just put the layer between two people. That's when corruption and bureaucracy is happening. When two people talk to each other, doing things under the table, whatever. So, but if you put digital layer, then you have no chance actually for that, corruption and bureaucracy. And you can get things much faster done.
Unless it's AI in charge of the digitalization.
Well, okay, that's the next challenge that we're going to face. And we're going to face much more challenges, many more challenges in the near future. But I strongly believe, to implement, and it's the right way to implement digitalization to the government and people, and in all the important positions where you can really kill that bureaucracy and corruption with digital experience.
Okay, Volodymyr, let's personalize it a bit more. This is broad, general, you know, obviously you're setting the context. You personally, what have you been doing in the last 2 years and your colleagues to help the cause during a difficult war?
Raising attention to the war in Ukraine. I just mentioned that people are getting tired, and probably one of the most important fronts are informational fronts. right now, what am I doing? I'm spreading the news about Ukraine. So you're not going to forget about us. We're going to keep supporting us. Ukraine is the largest European country. And we are asking for help a lot. But don't forget, Ukraine can give a lot. Because we're not just the largest, but we're the richest country in Europe. With our soil, and most importantly, with our talented people. On the technology side of us Ukrainians, as a nation, I'm just going to give you two examples. Igor Sikorsky has created one of the first, or the first helicopter in this world that was actually taking off in the city of Kyiv. Most of you probably using WhatsApp. Jan Kum is Ukrainian who has created WhatsApp. And we can count on and on, not to make you tired of this information, but it is important to spread the news, being on the front line, knowing how it is, facing those challenges, explaining on this front line of information as well, not the literal front line that now is in the east and in the south of the country, where I've been as well, to understand our soldiers, our defenders, what challenges they're facing. And it's horrifying.
Okay.
But
again, getting down to brass tacks, digital Kyiv that you're involved in, what are you doing with this digital Kyiv?
Without allies, it's going to be complicated to do anything during the war, because we're really relying on support from the free world. And it's about raising funds. Finances are in a key position. They're making it happen. And digitalization of city of Kyiv, with all the services the city of Kyiv is providing for 3.5 million people that are living now in city of Kyiv, as an example, out of 45 million nation as Ukrainians. So there is a lot to do with raising money, getting new equipment. I'm thankful to Dell Technologies and Michael Dell that have been providing such support and help. I'm thankful to Schwarzgruppe, who has been very, it's a German company of supermarkets, and they've been providing and helping a lot to digitalize our experiences in Ukraine. And with everybody who's working in Digital Kyiv, it's actually very creative minds that need such support to be effective. So raising money, getting new equipment, using it, improving it, providing services for people, doesn't matter. There are a lot of services that must be done in a digital way to expedite the experience. Right. And that's what actually one of the jobs I've been doing and still going, to promote my country, to fight on different front sides, and as I explained, very important informational front that's gonna make it or break it in people's mind and what they stand for.
Okay, when we're talking about people's minds, let's broaden it out again to the international context. You're, among other things, a former Olympic world champion, right? Gold medalist. The Olympics are coming up next year in Paris, right? Touchy subject. We know the Ukrainian position. What's your personal position about boycotting Russian, Belarusian athletes who are supporting the war of aggression against Ukraine?
I believe that next Olympic Games must take place in Paris next year. So we're all looking forward to watch all those athletes perform, but not to forget, sometimes people think, you know, sport has nothing to do with politics. It has a lot to do with politics, because as I said, I can explain, in our digital world, the world got smaller. So you have those athletes from Belarus and Russia that are in military. Over 250 Ukrainian athletes been killed in Ukraine that wore at the Olympic Games or supposed to go to the Olympic Games, including gymnasts, boys, girls. And Russian athletes are part of military. A lot of them have their ranks, military ranks, because you have also military world championships, and I've been there. I know what it is. I mean, all the national teams been performing at the military world championships, and they're performing at the Olympic Games, and they're going to perform at the Olympic Games. So I believe that as the consequence for this aggression from Russia, for this war, Russia and Belarus must be banned from the Olympic Games. Because if there are going to be no consequences in this world, the aggressor is going to keep on going. You must have consequences. It is not nice for the athletes, but they must say and really mean it against the war. None of those Russian athletes do it. None of them, because they're supporting and they're part of it. And one more time, it's painful to realize that Ukrainian athletes that's supposed to perform at the Olympic Games been murdered in Mariupol, in Bakhmut, Solidar, Kharkiv, Kiev, Borodyanka, Irpin, Gostomel, and on and on and on and on. And how many are going to be killed? Not to forget, until the Olympic Games going to start, because every single night we're under attack. Every single night, Iranian kamikaze drones, Shahids, and rockets bombarding our country, taking the lives, destroying the infrastructure. And how many athletes are not going to be capable of performing in 2024 Olympic Games in Paris? So ban Russia and Belarus as the consequence, and Russian Belarusian athletes to participate at the Olympic Games.
Okay, we're coming to the end. We've got a few more minutes left. Look, messages. You've already spoken about, we've spoken about compassion fatigue, Ukraine fatigue. Or, if there's any one message you want to convey to this audience and to the hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions watching out there, again, what would be the bottom line? You, as a very respected representative of Ukraine, from a distinguished sporting family, the mayor of Kyiv, your brother, what is your message? Why? You've told people that, yes, we're fighting for the cause of freedom, but what's in it for them? Why should they be supporting Ukraine when their gas bills are going up, when they've got their own internal politics? Why is Ukraine to be supported in this day and age?
Be egotistical and act without compromises. You're going to ask, what? Egotistical? Ego? Ego. And I'm speaking out as an athlete with experience. Without ego, you're going to not achieve anything in your life, in your business, in your family, in your country, your city, your nation. Without ego, you cannot proceed in your life. Ego is the power, is the core, is the driving force. I'm not speaking about narcissism. That's negative. To be egotistical is positive, because that's the driving force. And compromises. We hear a lot about, let's negotiate with Russia and get the compromise, to get ceasefire and maybe give up the land and so on and so on. Wrong. Because Russia has been lying on the outside and the inside for 2 decades now. We cannot trust a liar, because we're going to be again in a situation where we're going to rely on something, but it's not going to happen. Every compromise in your life is going to steal your time, and you're going to lose the focus and your target, what are you aiming at. Every compromise will steal your time. And for this time, you're going to lose your focus. What are you fighting for? What are you standing for? Just as we say in boxing, keep on punching until it's done. And that's my message to you.
You're saying ego. I would say it's also a sense of dignity and doing what's right. Look, our time is up. We have not only a great boxer, but clearly Ukraine has not just one, but several great communicators. Please thank our special guest, Volodymyr Klitschko.
Thank you. Thank you. Слава Україні!